Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to the GSL-English Podcast. My name is Gideon, and this is a podcast for all learners of English to practice and improve in a relaxed and natural way. And in this episode, we are going to talk about time, because I don't know about you, but time seems to have sped up recently. I feel like this year is just flying by more than any other year that I've experienced. Maybe it's just called getting older. I'm approaching 36 this year. Maybe this is just something that happens as you get older. Time just seems to speed up. But in this episode, we're not going to focus on the issues of life just getting faster and faster and time flying by. We're not going to focus on stopping in time. We're going to focus on everything just slowing down. And I've come across just a beautiful story, not about time stopping, not about going back in time or changing time. It's just about time literally slowing down. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine just the way that you move, or the minutes, the seconds that we live by, just slowing down a little bit, giving us more time to think, more time to act productively, more time to immerse ourselves and really just be in those moments that we love in life. We're going to read a story about that today, and then we're going to analyze it. We're going to see what we can take from it from a vocabulary point of view. And also how this can benefit us not only in life, but also in our learning of another language. Because my wife and I, we've been talking about it a lot recently. We were with some friends and we were just chatting about how quickly time seems to be going. So I thought I'd do some research on it, and that's where I came across this story. So if you haven't done so already, before we get into it, please don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a follow on Spotify, introduce yourself in the comments. I will try and get back to as many of you as possible. In case you don't know, I think most of you are aware. Most of you are subscribed, actually. Now, that's a lie. That was a complete lie. Many of you are subscribed, but there's plenty of you that watch this podcast on whatever platform regularly, and you're not subscribed. You're not following. You know who you are. So I don't mean to call you out, mainly because I can't. I don't have that exact information. But if you do watch this podcast regularly, even if it's just once a month, you watch 12 episodes a year, it's not for you every week, but you've watched more than one episode in the last 6 months, please give it a subscribe or a follow. And if you are new here, just as a little introduction, my name is Gideon. I'm an English teacher from Kent, about 20 minutes from the centre of London. And I put episodes out like this, hopefully every Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning. And the idea is just to present the English language to you, focusing around British English, because I am British. Just presenting that to you in a real and authentic way. We talk about loads of different things. So you've got nothing to lose. And if you are a returning follower or subscriber, I love you. Thank you for your support. Just as a little side note, I went to see one of the best films I have ever seen last week. I very rarely see films twice, but my wife and I were going to see it again on Monday evening, and that is Project Hail Mary with Ryan Gosling. It's based on the book by Andy Weir. He also wrote The Martian. I'm not going to say anything about the story because I don't want to ruin it for you. But if you are looking for something to do or a film to watch, I cannot recommend it enough. And if you have seen it, don't put any spoilers or anything in the comments, because I think that's the beautiful thing about that film. I went in knowing that I wanted to see it because I'm a big science fiction fan, but I didn't know anything about the story. I didn't know anything that was going to happen. And it was honestly one of the best cinematic experiences of my life. I absolutely loved it. And I can be a little bit fussy when it comes to films, cinema, and TV series. And Project Hail Mary is the exact reason that I am fussy. That has set the new benchmark of what can be done. What can be put out there. We get a lot of rubbish these days. I don't know about you, but whether you feel the same. A lot of the films on Netflix, or even that you go and see in cinema, they're just a bit naff. Just a bit rubbish. Feel like they just churn them out for the money. This film's not like that. Please, if you get chance, go and see it. So, could you imagine time slowing down? So what we're going to do at the beginning here, we're just going to read the story in its entirety. It's not a long story. So we're going to read it, we're going to analyse it, and then we're going to discuss it. So the story's called The Day Everything Slowed Down. Now, what I do encourage you to do is read along with me on the screen and try and build your own thoughts on this story. Try and put yourself into some of the shoes of those that we talk about. But also, if you are in an environment where you can do so, perhaps save it for later. If not, try reading along with me at exactly the same time. So I'd recommend listen through once, just read along, and then read along with me again out loud. It's a superb exercise that I used to do with many of my private students, just to build that fluency, that natural rhythm, the connection between words, and particularly if you are looking to build that natural, fluent, more British English. Great exercise. So here we go. Oh, before we get into it, you know what I say every time, this is all about relaxing and enjoying English. If you can, get a blanket, get a cup of tea, get yourself comfortable, and just chill out. Life's busy. English can be stressful, but not on my watch, not in this podcast. All right? So I give you permission. Not that you need it. No, I do give you permission. Have a little pause now. Go and make yourself a cheese toastie, a fry up, bit of toast, beans on toast, cup of tea. As long as the tea bag goes in first, then water, then milk, cup of coffee, and just relax. We're in no rush. Just enjoy the English language with me. Okay, if you're ready, here we go. The day everything slowed down. It started at exactly 9:17 in the morning, although, to be fair, no one could agree on the... I'm going to start that again. Here we go. It started at exactly 9:17 in the morning, although, to be fair, no one could agree on that later. At first, everything looked normal. People were rushing to work, checking their phones, thinking about what they had to do next. Just a regular day. But then, tiny things started to feel different. A spoon fell, just a bit slower than it should have. Someone running for a bus felt their foot hanging the air for a split second longer. Voices stretched slightly, like they had more room to exist. Nothing big, nothing alarming, just off. By around 9:30, people started to feel it more clearly. In an office somewhere, two colleagues were arguing, one of those quick, tense arguments that usually escalates fast. But this time, something strange happened. There was a pause. And in that pause, instead of reacting immediately, one of them actually thought about what they were going to say. The argument didn't explode. It just sort of faded. In a cafe, a barista noticed the steam from the coffee machine, not just glanced at it, but really noticed it. The way it curled slowly into the air, like it wasn't in a rush to disappear. So she slowed down too. And the customer? For once, they weren't glued to their phone. They looked up. They made eye contact. A tiny moment, but it felt different. And then there was a child. She was sitting at the kitchen table, colouring, completely focused, completely calm. She looked up at her mum, who was talking, and something felt strange. "Mum," she said, "why is everything taking its time today?" Her mum smiled and said, "I don't know. Maybe it's just a slow day." But the child didn't quite believe that. Still, she went back to colouring, just a bit more carefully than before. By midday, something really interesting had happened. People had stopped rushing, not on purpose. No one made a decision to slow down. It just happened. They walked instead of hurried. They listened instead of waiting to speak. They noticed things: light, sounds, silence. A man picked up his phone and called his brother, someone he hadn't spoken to in months. And when his brother answered, neither of them rushed the conversation. By the evening, the world hadn't stopped. It just felt calmer, fuller, more present, like every moment had a bit more space inside it. And then, at 11:03 p.m, everything went back to normal. Just like that. The speed returned, the noise came back, the pauses disappeared. And by the next morning, most people had already forgotten. Almost. Interesting story, isn't it? So let's just kind of analyse it a little bit. What's really going on in this story? Because obviously this isn't actually about, maybe it is, about time slowing down. It's about what happens when we are forced to slow down. Because when we think about it, nothing in the story really changes on the outside. We've got the same people, we've got the same places, the same problems, but the experience of everything changes completely. They carried on doing what they're doing, didn't they? The barista carried on doing her job. The colleagues carried on that argument/conversation. The girl carried on colouring, but everything changed. Why? Because there was space in life. There was space to think before speaking. There was space to notice those small things. There was space to actually feel what's happening instead of rushing past it. If we take that argument, for example, it doesn't get better because the problem disappears. It gets better because there's a pause. The barista didn't become a different person. She just finally had a little bit of time to notice the beauty in what she was doing. And that phone call probably could have happened any day. It just didn't, because life usually moves too fast. And I think the child is really important here. She doesn't question her mum like it's a problem. She's not stressed, confused, or worried about it. She just notices it, acknowledges it, raises it with her mum, but she accepts it, which I find really interesting, because as adults, we tend to do the complete opposite of that, don't they? What happens when things slow down a little bit? We get uncomfortable. We fill silence with our phones, with noise. We rush if we get a little bit of space. We try to get back to that normal, in inverted commas, pace of life as quickly as possible. So my kind of analysis of this story is, of course, that nothing dramatic happens, no huge events, no big turning point, but everything feels better because there's just a little bit of time. So let's break it down a little bit. So it starts at 9:17 in the morning. At first they wake up, everything looked normal. And the normal in this story, I think, is the normal for all of us: rushing to work, check your phones, what have I got to do next? Just a regular day. I think all of our lives feel like that, don't they? We're constantly rushing. Social media, catching up, emails, phone calls. Just a regular day, a normal day. But then things started to feel a little bit different. And the first instance was a spoon falling. Just a little bit slower than it should have. Someone running for a bus. Again, they're in that process of running, but they notice that their feet just linger in the air a little bit longer. Voice is stretched slightly, so rather than trying to complete the conversation or saying what you've got to say as quickly as possible, it just stretched a little bit. More room to exist, more room to speak. Nothing big, nothing alarming. Things were just off. And then it gives the example a little bit later, and then you've got these two colleagues arguing. And it's one of those arguments that I think is quite common in a workplace environment. Quick, tense. If something is tense, you know that there's a lot of tension around it. A lot of feelings, a lot of emotion that can escalate fast. And when we talk about a situation escalating, it can get out of hand, particularly in arguments. If an argument escalates, things can be said that shouldn't have been said. Actions can happen that really we didn't want to happen. But where is it? But this time, there was a pause. Rather than it escalating, because time was just a little bit longer, there was a pause. And instead of that happening, they just had time to think before they spoke. So the argument didn't explode into something. It just faded. Then we've got the beautiful example of this barista and the coffee machine with the steam from it. It's just something we take for granted. But she just took a moment just to look at the steam and just the way it curled around, and it's beautiful expression. It wasn't in a rush to disappear. So because she'd seen that, she thought, I'm just going to slow down a little bit too. And we've got the example of the customer. We've all been guilty of this. What happens when you order your drink? It's like a break from your phone, isn't it? You quickly order, you're back to your phone. Well, they looked up. A little bit of eye contact. A little moment, but it felt different. And then there's a child. And this is the really interesting part, because a child's perception of time is very different to us as an adult, isn't it? Why is everything taking its time today, Mum? Not that she didn't have a problem with it. It was just something that she acknowledged, she noticed. And the mum said, well, maybe it's just one of them slow days. And then later on in the story, it talks about, people just stopped rushing, not on purpose. No one made a decision to slow down. It just happens. And then it gives some comparisons. Rather than hurrying everywhere, trying to get there as quick as you can, people just walked. They listened instead of waiting to speak. And I think that's a really interesting example. Probably all been guilty of it as well. Or you've had the experience where you're in a conversation with someone, you're speaking, maybe you're talking from the heart, and you can just tell that they're waiting to talk. They're not really listening. They're just waiting to express their opinion. Well, in this story, everyone just listened instead of waiting to speak. Why are we always in such a rush to speak, to answer? Just listen. And because of this, they took in the lights, the sounds, taking in the silence. A man picked up his phone and called his brother. And this comes back to the analysis of the story. I'm talking personally from experience here. I always think, I need to phone my brother today. He lives in Ireland. Or I need to phone another member of the family or a close friend. I think about it, but what happens? I'm rushing around with my day. So I don't phone them. It doesn't happen. It's not a good enough excuse, really, is it? When his brother answered, none of them are rushing to end the conversation. You're not just getting through the formalities. These are our loved ones. Why are we always in such a rush? By the evening, the world hadn't stopped. And this is the thing I love about this story. It's not about time stopping. It's just about calming down, being more present in the moment, giving life just a little bit of space. And then, of course, 11:03, everyone went back to normal, just like that. Speed returned, noise came back, the pauses disappeared, and by the next morning, most people had already forgotten. Life just goes back to normal. So what can we take from this story? Because in the end of it, time sped back up, didn't it? Everything goes back to normal. But a few people change, just slightly. The barista, still paused for a moment. Man calls his brother again. The child keeps taking her time. But I thought for us, of course, we can't slow down time. But in a sense, we can if we just pause. We notice things. We give moments a little bit more space, because I think particularly in the very how can I put it, social media based world that we live in, everything is rushed. Communication is rushed. It's made to be as quick as possible. But maybe we just need a little bit more time. So, of course, we don't have the power to slow down time, but subconsciously, perhaps we do. Really interesting concept, isn't it? Because it just got me thinking. I'm always talking with my wife, I don't know, particularly as I get older, just about time speeding up, or it feels like time's just going crazy. Where is all the time gone? Well, maybe actually it's my perception of time that is changing. Maybe I need to change that just a little bit. Just slowing down myself, pausing, controlling that time, and just being more present in the moment. And I thought, how does this apply to English? Well, I think, we can often mistake being good at something for being fast at it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I used to, because I'm a drummer, I always used to have friends saying, "Oh, can you teach me a beat? Can you teach me how to play drums?" And anyone can play drums simply. So I would teach them the basic beat. I would get them on the hi-hat, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then they bring in the snare, 1 and 2 snare. Then the kick drum, blah, blah, blah. And they'd build it up. And I'd always say, just slow down and just get the hang of it. Enjoy it. Get into the groove, get into the rhythm, and just relax. But you know what human nature always did for everybody? Once they got the hang of it, what was their first inclination to do? To speed up. To get faster. And I always say to them, no, stop speeding up. Just lock in and enjoy that pace. Enjoy that groove. There's nothing wrong with a slow groove. There's nothing wrong with a bit of rhythm. It doesn't. And it's the same with guitar. I think it's the same with anything. We feel that as soon as we get good, we've got to be faster at it. With our jobs, we've got to get faster. We've got to do it. And I think particularly with English, very often we can make the mistake or get into the wrong line of thinking that being advanced, being fluent comes from speed, comes from rushing, being able to answer quickly, being able to speak quickly, being able to read quickly, being able to listen on 1.5 speed, blah, blah, blah. I just fundamentally disagree. Some of the best conversations you can have, some of the best audiobooks I've listened to are at a slower pace. And of course, we all speak in natural rhythms, don't we? But sometimes I think with English, maybe we need to just slow down a little bit to enjoy it more. If someone asks us a question, if someone is talking to us, rather than thinking about what am I going to say, what articulate answer can I give with all of that vocabulary I've learned, just wait, just listen, pause, and then speak, rather than always rushing to answer. Or perhaps if there's a room full of people talking, thinking, I haven't said anything, I'm not involved, blah, blah. Don't worry about it. Just enjoy the moment. If you've got something to say it. It's not essential. It's not imperative that we always speak as fast as we can. Yeah, I just think it's a really interesting concept, and I think it applies. I do think it applies to learning English. Of course, English is my native language, but I know with Spanish, one of the first things I always used to do is just try and speak faster, but that is not fluency. Okay, we do build on connecting words, assimilation, getting that rhythm, getting that flow, so it all just blends together, and it sounds good. You know the English I'm talking about. But that isn't based around speed. Just because someone can speak English faster than us, it doesn't matter. And if we want to have good conversations, the first thing we've got to do is listen. You know what they say, the old saying, we've got 2 ears for a reason, and we only got 1 mouth. Do we listen enough? Are we listening enough to each other? Are we listening in conversations? Are we pausing? Are we taking time before we speak, before we answer? I don't know. Just a thought that I was thinking about. And I think particularly in daily life, I don't know about you, I'm just in the habit of rushing. I wake up at 6:30, I make a coffee, I chill with my wife for a little bit, I do a bit of reading, and then it's work, it's go. I come home, I've got jobs to do. All of that stuff still got to get done. I'm not denying that. But does it always have to be at such a pace? And I was trying to think of the areas of my life where I could just slow down a little bit. And one of them is I love to go to the gym. And of course, I have an intense workout as much as I can. But I often just rush around the gym. I rush in there, I get changed, and then I rush home, and I probably got about half an hour I can add to that of just slowing down. And just I'm not talking to not have an intense workout, but the process around it, just calming down a bit. Everything else is rushed in life. But if we got certain areas, of course, it's a very personal thing, where we could just slow down a little bit. Maybe if we walk to work, can we leave a little bit earlier and just control that time again? Or if we order a coffee at a coffee shop, could we try and have a little conversation with the person there? I don't know what I'm trying to get at, really. But of course, we can't control time. We can't stop time. We can't speed up time. We can't slow it down. We can't travel in time yet. Come on, Interstellar. You never know. But maybe our perception of time can give us a little bit more of a control of it. I don't know. What's your opinion? Let me know in the comments. Did you like that story? Do you think life is too rushed, or do you think there's just nothing we can do about it? A great way to improve your English is to get involved. So, yeah, leave your opinions in the comments. So, yeah, have a little catch up. I hope you're doing well. I hope you have had a good week. I know there's a lot going on in the world at the moment, and many people do kind of mention it in the comments, but I always try and keep this podcast as a little escape from everything, as well as you improving your English. So I hope you get that from this. I hope you, when you sit down with me, wherever you are, or you're listening, I genuinely do hope that, of course, you're practicing for your English. It's practicing your English, particularly your listening skills. But also, I do hope that you can just switch off a little bit. That's always the goal. That's always the plan. Life's got enough stresses. Studying can be stressful, IELTS, exams, work. This podcast is not about that. It's just about relaxing and chilling together whilst improving our English. I had some lovely comments recently about, I think there's somebody, I didn't write down your username, so I do apologise, but you wrote day 7, and I think you're trying to listen to the podcast every day at the moment. Well done. Keep it up. Whoever you are, keep that up. Really proud of you, whatever you're doing. And we had a lot of lovely comments recently about just this helping you with your English, your listening skills, IELTS exams, and just feeling more confident with British English. So if that is you, thank you so much for letting me know. But also keep it up. Whatever you're doing, just enjoy it, but keep up the great work. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I think it might be a little bit shorter than normal. Yeah, maybe a couple of minutes shorter, so I've deprived you of 2 minutes of the podcast. I do apologise. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening, and have a superb week. Have a good one, guys.